What up, what up, what up, what up? Welcome back to the scorecard, the boxing scorecard, where I ask you to bring your scorecard and an explanation, not just simply your opinion. All right. We had the well-anticipated super middleweight bout last Saturday night. Well anticipated. These two guys have been talking trash to each other for a couple of years now and finally got to settle it in the ring. Of course, we're talking about Caleb Sweet Hands Plant versus David, the Mexican monster, Benavidez. So, starting with the challenger first, Caleb Plant coming in with a record of 22 wins with 13 knockouts. Knockout percentage of 54. So half of his fights end in knockouts, but he's more of a guy that relies on his skills to win his fights. Went up against the Mexican monster, pulling up his stats here, David Benavidez, who is slightly younger. How old is Caleb Plant, actually? David Benavidez is 26 years old. El Bandera Roja. That's his nickname. Coming in with a record of 20 in his 26 bouts. This guy had 23 knockouts, 85% KO percentage. So the Mexican monster was favored in this one. So the outcome was exactly how I predicted. David Benavidez won by unanimous decision. However, the way that the fight worked out is not the way that I thought it would in the end. I apologize. At the beginning, the first half of the fight was not what I was expecting. All right, let's get into the scorecard. So the official scorecards. Now, the one thing that they don't say, it was unanimous. So at least 2 of the 3 judges gave it to Benavidez, but it doesn't say, like, sometimes if it's a split decision, it doesn't say which judge gave it to which guy. Anyways, so one judge had it 115 and 113, which is the same score I had. Another judge had it 116 to 112, and another judge had a wide score of 117 to 111. Now, this might be a surprise to some people, but my 115 to 113 score was actually for Caleb Plant. And yes, I will explain myself. So let's get right into it. Please put your scorecards in the comment section or whatever comments you got about the fight. Yes, thank you for pulling up my scorecard here. Leave it here for 1 second as I go through it and explain round for round as I pull the highlights up too. So here, let's just make this clear, because I know a lot of people are going to be going crazy by me saying that I thought Caleb Plant won, but let's look into the details. First of all, from rounds 8 to 12, those 5 rounds, from rounds 8 to 12 was clearly for David Benavidez. All right, 8 to 12 was clearly for Benavidez. So it's really the first 7. If you're going to argue any rounds, like I had it for Caleb Plant. So my main difference was by 3 rounds. And on BoxRec is pretty cool because they actually have the scorecards of the fans that scored the fight. And the majority of fans had it 116 to 112. Again, it doesn't say for which side, but I'm assuming for David Benavidez. So even with that said, that's only a couple rounds difference off of my scorecard. And here's my explanation. So after I explain the scorecard, then you can go through the rest of the pictures. Round 1, Plant's jab won that round. Benavidez rarely backs up like that. Plant looked good. So again, Benavidez he's used to coming forward most of the time. Again, not just because you're backing up means you're losing, but there must be a reason why you're backing up when you have an 85% knockout ratio, and all of a sudden you're the one that's backing up in the fight. So there must be a reason for that. Caleb Plant's jab was working very beautiful in that first round. Round number 2 also gave the play to Caleb Plant. I'll just tell you right now, I gave the first 7 rounds. Yeah, the first 7 rounds, and I'm going to explain it right now too, not just my random opinion. And round 6 was the only round that I saw as a close round. Anyways, round 2. My notes for round 2 is Plant was simply outboxing Benavidez. Simply outboxing him. Now, Benavidez is definitely the harder puncher, as we saw towards near the end of the fight. But at the beginning, in those beginning rounds, I thought Benavidez would be throwing a lot more than he did, but he did not. And so Plant's accuracy and a few combinations, Plant's power might not have been like visibly effective on Benavidez, but he was still throwing, not just throwing, but landing more than Benavidez. Round 3, Plant again. Plant clearly winning. Benavidez looks frustrated, was my note for round 3. Because again, usually by round 3, he's already putting hands on you, Benavidez. He doesn't waste time, showing what his game plan is. But I thought Caleb Plant, Stephen Edwards, Caleb Plant's coach, had him very prepared. He was boxing, not running. He was moving, not running, because he was still landing punches. You can't call someone a runner if they're landing punches on you. So Caleb was landing and moving. Round 4. Now I hear round 4. Some people are saying they gave round 4 to Benavidez. All right, I didn't think so. My notes for round 4 is Plant pitching a shutout right now. Yeah, I thought up to this point, Caleb Plant was clearly winning the fight off of his boxing skills. No, he did not hurt David Benavidez in at any point, but I still think he outboxed him up until now. Round 5. My notes specifically for round 5 was, wow, I was not expecting this. Plant clearly winning. Benavidez showing the frustration signs. Yeah. But at that one time, Benavidez, he does the clear sign when you're trying to cut someone off and you can't really do it. So they just stand in the middle of the ring and, with their gloves, tell you give you the motion to come forward. That's the telltale sign that's the body language sign to say, listen, it's too hard for me to cut you off, so I need you to stand still so I have a better chance to hit you. That's what that means when you see someone just stand there and put their glove up and give you the motion to come forward. So, yeah, round 5, Benavidez was frustrated. Round 6 was the first round that I marked as a close round, so it could have went either way. I gave it to Plant, but it could have went either way. My notes for round 6 was Benavidez landed a few, but not enough to win the round. So this is where he started to pick it up. He started to pick it up in the 6th round. Speaking of David, the Mexican monster, picked it up in the 6th round, but I still did not think it was enough to give him the round. Round 7. My notes for round 7. Wow, nobody was expecting this. Benavidez looks not confident. Stephen Edwards giving perfect instructions. Stephen Edwards, Caleb Plant's coach. I forget the exact details he was giving, but he was giving clear, precise, detailed instructions. And up until that point, Caleb Plant was weathering this, was doing good, winning. Now this is where things start to turn over again. And then round 8 until 12. You can just go through the picks now because it's taking long. Round 8. My notes for round 8 was it was a clear for Benavidez round. Plant looked like he did against the Canelo fight, late, going rope to rope. Tell guys that some Benavidez made a switch in that 7th round. Instead of it was a combination of Benavidez making a switch and Caleb Plant kind of fading, kind of like he did in the Canelo fight. His footwork wasn't as sharp as it was. Instead of doing sharp turns, when he would get to the ropes, instead of doing sharp turns to get back to the center where you got more room to move around, he would just go from one rope to the other one. And when you just go from rope to rope, it's easy for your opponent to cut you off because it's just easier. It's an easier angle for them to cut you off at. So that was Caleb Plant's on Caleb Plant for fading in that 8th round. 9. Second clear round for Benavidez. The pressure is getting to Plant. And these were not even close to being close rounds. These were clear Benavidez rounds. Round 10, clear for Benavidez again. Round 11, Plant is really slowing down. And I didn't even write any notes for round 12 because it was clear for Benavidez again. So with that being said, 7 rounds. The first 7 rounds I gave to Caleb Plant. And David Benavidez needed a stoppage to win, which he was claiming he was going to do by the 6th round. Benavidez claimed he was going to do, but it didn't happen. But again, round 8, Round 8 to 12 was clear for Benavidez. It wasn't a doubt. And so, yeah, that was the match there. Now, let's go through the rankings real quick as the picks keep rolling. So before the fight, everyone already knew the winner of this one was going to get a shot at Canelo. Now, this is why the weigh-ins kind of throw you off a little bit, because you see this picture here. Like, to me, Caleb Plant looks like the bigger fighter in this pick. Benavidez, just in this pick right here, Caleb Plant just looks like he's bigger and stronger. But even in the ring, Benavidez just I don't know, man. It's something about his presence. He's only maybe an inch taller than Plant, but for some reason his whatever word, his body presence just looked bigger than Caleb Plant. So that was the thing, man. And David Benavidez does not fade late. That was the thing. Caleb Plant was doing good at the beginning, but when he starts to fade, it doesn't look good. And David Benavidez took full advantage of that. There was a cut over Caleb Plant's eye at some point in time, probably from this left hook right here that's landing right now. That might have been one of them that started the cut. And and Benavidez was just putting it on him later in the rounds. So I'm looking at the super middleweight rankings, 168 pounds. Of course, Canelo Alvarez, still the man up there. Canelo Alvarez is going to be fighting John Ryder in a couple of weeks. John Ryder is not a known guy, but he's from the UK, Southpaw. He just beat Daniel Jacobs a couple of weeks ago. Daniel Jacobs obviously a little bit old, a little bit more washed up, but still a good win for John Ryder, a respectable win for John Ryder, and he is a good fighter. So I think he'll give Canelo a test. I'm obviously still picking Canelo, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as people think. Back to this fight here, though. Once again, I was saying this years ago, and like Pusha T said, if you know, you know. For those who know who I'm talking about, I was saying years ago that Benavidez was going to be the guy that I thought, not guaranteed, but that I thought was going to be able to dethrone Canelo. Everyone thought I was crazy. People said he was too young. People said he gets hit too much. But I don't know, man. I saw that potential in him, and now I believe it even more. It's going to be a definite. When they say styles make fights, Benavidez style and Canelo style, it's going to be very interesting to see who is going to make the other person back up. Because both these guys, their strength is making their opponent back up. Their strength is not just simply walking, like the skill of walking you down, basically forcing your opponent to fight going backwards, even though they might not want to. That is a skill, because if you don't have respectable power to walk someone down, someone will just stand right there, right in front of you, and try to go toe to toe with you. And as I said, the problem with the Mexican monster, David Benavidez, what makes him different from Canelo. Canelo will walk you down, but Canelo's walking you down and throwing the one-punch power punches until you eventually slow down. Benavidez, he's walking you down but throwing combinations. That's a different story. So that's that type of pressure is different. Canelo's more the single punch power until he hurts you and then tries to finish you off from there. Benavidez, he's coming with that pressure, effective aggression, right from the bat. So with that being said, so hopefully Canelo takes care of John Ryder in May, I believe it is. In May, and then Benavidez and Canelo hopefully in early September. Now, if that fight doesn't happen, let's look at the rankings now. In the WBC, the top five in the WBC is Caleb Plant was number 1. We got Christian Mabili, who trains out of Montreal. Hopefully he gets his shot. Eric Bazinian, Ali Akhmedov, Demetrius Andrade, who should be the one up. I really hope Demetrius Andrade gets his shot. WBA, they got Caleb Plant as number 1. Demetrius Andrade is number 2. Yeah. We need to get Andrade that shot. Christian Mabili, my boy from Montreal, is number 5. IBF has the only big name I see here is Edgar Berlanga, who is Edgar Berlanga versus David Benavidez, or even Canelo. Berlanga doesn't have the experience. Like I said, this guy is 16 or 17 wins. I think he has 16 like first round knockouts. So even though it's impressive to have that many knockouts in the first round, the only bad thing is that you're not gaining any experience with these fights, only going one round. So if you think about it, in 16 fights, that's, he's had 4, basically the equivalent of having like four round fights. 4 4-round fights. Usually when you start pro, you start with a couple of 4-round fights before you move on to 6, 8, 10, 12. So he's already at 16 fights, or 17 fights. I think 16 of them have came from 1 first round knockouts. So technically, 4 times 4, he's only had like just a little bit over 4 4-round fights. And so I think he still needs a lot more grooming before needs to touch up the skills a little bit more before he decides to turn up with the big boys. And WBO, I recognize name. They got Demetrius Andrade as number 1. I like to see that. Diego Pacheco, number 3. Edgar Berlanga, Zach Parker. So yeah, man. I think, and as for Caleb Plant can fight one of these guys, and still keep his status as a top 3 super middleweight. So I'd go. It's top super middleweights: Canelo, the Mexican monster Benavidez, and Caleb Plant, and everybody else falls in line after that. I guess you can go with Demetrius Andrade because he definitely passed the eye test before any of these guys. Demetrius Andrade, then probably Berlanga. Because some of these other guys, I don't recognize their names, so they haven't really done nothing for me to catch their attention yet. Let's keep the picks moving. So yeah, man, it was a great fight. The one thing I like to see is that they buried the hatchet after the fight and showed each other respect. They showed each other respect, so I'm glad they did that, because a lot of times, when there's a lot of trash talking going on, that's meaningful, not just trash talking to hype up the fight, but when 2 people actually don't like each other, sometimes it still spills over after the fight. But I was glad to see that, they shook hands, they apologized for the stuff that they said to each other, and showed that proper respect. So hopefully they can work with each other in the future as far as, sparring and helping each other with other fights. Yeah. So that was my scorecard. Again, the fight ended exactly the way that I predicted it, and I got my receipts too. You can go back to last week's prediction show of Benavidez and Plant, and hear that I predicted Benavidez by unanimous decision. Even though I didn't score it that way when I actually watched the fight. I guess if I would have bet it, I still would have won my money. But yeah, Caleb Plant 115, 113, and there you have it. So this one was a short one today. We got a lot more bangers coming up in the next couple of weeks, though. I know Anthony Joshua is making his return this Saturday. Shakur Stevenson is also coming up in a little bit. And we got Mr. Garcia and Mr. Tank Davis in late April. So I know I'm missing something in between there too. Shout out to the coaches. The past couple of weekends, I was able to certify a few level 1 and level 2 boxing coaches in Ontario. So shout out to you guys and girls that took your time to come and get your certifications. I'm glad to help out the boxing community in that way, spread the knowledge, and man, hope you guys build some champions too. Shout out to everyone that did it and took the time to build up your boxing knowledge. Hopefully you learned something in the past couple of weeks. Yeah. All right, man. There you have it. Cedric Sports, Talkin Fight, the #1 boxing YouTube channel out there. You can't catch the show live. You can catch it on any boxing podcast platform. My show is usually on Sundays at 9:30 a.m. But when boxing commitments come up, they got to take a little bit of priority. So the only time I would miss a Sunday show is if I'm away for boxing, either teaching a course or coaching at a show or a tournament. Yeah. But even if I don't go live, you can always catch the replay. Like I said, any podcast platform. Shout out to Talkin Fight. If you haven't done it yet, make sure you press that like button so it can help with the visibility of the show. And tell a friend to tell a friend. Yeah. Catch me on any social media at Cedric Sports. Check out my YouTube channel, Cedric Sports Training. Talkin Fight. Yeah, the #1 boxing YouTube channel. All right, man, I'm out. Peace.